Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It has been requested that I make a video on how to data log your FiTech or otherwise similar fuel injection system. So in this video I'm going to show you how to do it, how to read it, and the value of that information. So stay tuned.
So to start your log, what you do is you go to your dashboard and all you have to do is say log on, and now you're logging. So simple as that. Go for a drive and get some miles on it. So I like to find some areas that are nice and secluded so you know you're not interfering with people. Of course you want your fluid temperatures to be up to operating temperature to get the most accurate results. You want to try different throttle positions, different RPMs, different loads, just to get as much information as possible so you can break it down later on. A bit of a bog there. It'll be interesting to see that later in the logs. Big important thing that you have to do once you're finished your runs is you go down to log off, then you push that, data logger off, and now it has saved your data, so we can go upload this to the computer and see what information we get.
Okay, to download the log file onto your computer, it's very simple. You just need to take your USB cable that came with the FiTech kit. You plug it into your computer and then into the handheld device. It takes a second to load up, and it's going to say open USB mass storage. You click on that and that will open up on your computer. From here you open up the log file folder, dashboard, and then open up the latest log file that you have. Now I'm using OpenOffice, which is a free downloadable software. You open up any program that's going to open Excel files like Microsoft Excel. And for me, I always get this message, which I just say OK, and then it brings up my value, my spreadsheet. Now the very first thing that I do is I highlight the second row. I go Window, Freeze. Now that allows me to scroll around with my mouse, up and down, whatever, while maintaining my header up the top. Now for the header, obviously there's a few things that you really want to be looking at. So RPM, your manifold pressure, boost vacuum if you're running boost, coolant temperature can be important, your actual AFRs, your target AFRs. The AFR trim is how much the FiTech unit is adjusting based on what it's asking for. So let's say it's asking for 14.6 and I'm actually getting 15, so it's going to add some fuel. The AFR learn is how much it's saving to your, like, the memory, right? So how much it's actually saving to your tables. Throttle position sensor, obviously that's important to tell you how much throttle you actually have open. The injector duty cycle, that can be important if you're, pushing the limits of how much, power you are running on your particular unit. Spark advance would be important if you actually have timing control. I do not, so it's useless to me. IAC steps, that's how much your IAC is actually open. Let's see what else we got. Fuel pump. I have mine set with a pulse width modulation, so at idle I'm running an idle and cruise. I'm about 75% or 74%, and then at max throttle I'm at 100%. Air temperature. Cylinder temperature is a calculation between air temp and your coolant temp. Your battery, always nice to know that you have enough volts going to your electronic fuel injection. Some of this other stuff we don't really care. Faults, if you're having faults with your system, that it's going to show up here, I guess. So these are the basics. Now let's kind of move into some of the actual data. So here I scrolled down to the first hit that I did, and you can see I rolled into it in first gear, and if you remember, I got a bit of a bog, a stumble. And if I look on line 253, right here, my AFR was 17.1, so it went way lean. And the cause of that is actually I had some starvation in the fuel pump. And that is a problem, essentially a manufacturing defect in my fuel tank. It's something I'm aware of. It shouldn't be happening, but it is. So it's a whole other conversation. But that actually caused that stumble. But what's interesting is you can see that the FiTech decided to dump a lot of fuel into there because it detected quite the lean condition. And then I went into a rich condition, so 10.8 to 1 AFR. And from there, it never really recovered. So you can see here, this is second gear, and still 11.7 to 1. This is my shift into third gear, and again, 11.1 to 1 AFRs. That's just way too rich. And you can see it's trying to lean it out, but by the time that happens, I'm basically at the end of the run. So we're talking 4,200 RPM here to 4,500 RPM or so, 4,400. In that time frame, it took to kind of clean itself up. So, I mean, it's happening quickly on the spot, but not fast enough to be, to maximize your power. Now, the last thing I should mention here is the TPS. You notice it says 99.5%. Do not worry about if your system says anything below 100%. I shouldn't say anything below, but if it's not saying 100%, that's not meaning that you're actually not getting full throttle. As long as your throttle blades are physically opening maximum, you're fine. Anything below 99%, I would probably start to look at it, but 99, 99.5, or 100%, you're pretty sure that you're getting 100% throttle, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now this is the second hit that I did. You can see I rolled into it in second gear, mashed the gas. This time it did show 100% throttle. Again, so it went a bit lean, and then it tried to dump a bunch of fuel in, and back to a rich condition, all the way to 10.4 to 1 AFRs. That means big time lack of power, and I felt it. I didn't feel it was running very strong, and that is why. Because it should be at 12.5 or so to 1. That's what I'm asking for. It is way, way rich. And the system is then trying to lean it out, and really you do not want to see 20, 30%, trim percents. It means it's adjusting too much. You want to be under 10%. Do not worry about it so much once you're off the throttle and going from max to nothing. That's not a big deal. It's when you're on throttle and you're doing a full run. If you're seeing 30% trim percents, that means you're way out of adjust. Your tune's way off. It's just kind of the bottom line. Also, you can see the amount of manifold pressure. If you look on your FiTech unit, you'll see typically 45 kPa, 95 kPa, and at least if you have a power adder system like mine, it'll say 180 kPa for boosted systems, which is completely useless to me since I'm naturally aspirated. I don't even hit 95 kPa. I'm at about 94. So it's just something to keep in mind if you want to get some advanced tuning going on later on. This is when I left the parking lot, essentially, or back onto the main roads, getting up to the speed limits at a quicker rate than usual, I should suppose. You can see 30% throttle, 60% throttle. You can see your manifold pressures are in your mid-range, so between 45 and 95. Again, these are part throttle, conditions, and ideally you want your system to run well at idle and cruise, in part throttle acceleration, and of course at wide open throttle. So this is where all this data starts to become useful. Gather it all in so you can make use of it later. So this is the final hit that I did, where I rolled into it from second gear, full throttle. It again went to a very rich condition, and it hesitated a bit, and then I pulled it all the way through third gear, and it started to clean itself up by then. You can see 12.4, 12.5. Fourth gear, it got a little bit rich up on the top at about 4,000 RPM, but for the most part, our EFRs were reasonable. And again, it's important, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, automatic, pull your run, and see what it's doing so you can make your adjustments. So there's a few things that just from this table alone that has shown me. So one, obviously I'm getting a hesitation off of throttle, and this is a common problem. If you are stabbing the throttle and it's hesitating or it's bogging, what is often happening is you are getting a lean condition, and the EFI is dumping a whole bunch of fuel, causing a rich bog condition. So one of the ways you can potentially fix that is go into your Excel pump, and you can tell it to add more fuel off a initial throttle position hit. So when you stab the throttle, it spits more fuel in, and that should prevent the FiTech or your EFI from automatically dumping in more fuel, causing that rich condition. So I'm obviously going to try that and make some adjustments there. I noticed that my idle, you can see my IAC steps are at 25. Those should be between 3 and 10, which this is weird because I've had it adjusted before and it seems to have gotten worse again. And also I've cranked a whole ton of screw in my idle screw, and it's still this high. So I need to work on that. And just from my general amount of inconsistencies with my air fuel ratios and how they're working over my entire RPM range and different throttle positions, this has told me that I want to go into the Pro Tuning software, which I have, and I'm going to make some adjustments. Now, you do not necessarily need to have this software on your computer to make any kind of adjustments. 99% of this you can do from your handheld. It's just a little bit more visual from here. So I'm going to play with that and see how it goes. I'm going to be completely green on it and learning from essentially scratch. I have some ideas already, but I'm not going to go through that in this video. It's potentially going to be in another video to at least see if I can, make some use or heads or tails of this. So if you like this video, you got any good information from it, please hit the like button. If you want to see some future videos on, say, how I go about my pro tuning, quote unquote, then hit the subscribe button. And until next time, thanks for watching.